Hello and welcome to In Novato. I'm your host, Pam Haessly, and we're opening up this segment in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And what are we doing here in Minnesota? Well, good question. Let me first introduce you to Mike Johnson, Executive Director of CCX Media here in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Well, thank you, Pam. I'm glad you were able to make the trip up here. We wanted to invite you here because we're familiar, the Novato NCTV is a small station in Northern California, and we wanted you to take a look at a community television center that offers all kinds of possibilities in terms of local programming.
And first, I want to explain to our audience that the best thing that I did as an executive director was to join Alliance for Community Media, ACM. And a year and a half ago, I received a scholarship to attend a national conference in Minneapolis, whereby that's where we initially met. And then attended a regional conference in Sacramento. And that's been beneficial to the board, to us, to learn how to grow and where to go in the future. So I want to turn it over to Mike to then learn what's the value of NCTV visiting the Minneapolis metropolitan area.
Well, as you're going to see in a little bit, your viewers, is that we took a tour of many different facilities around the suburban areas of the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, and you're going to see so many opportunities of what is done in community TV, whether it's local news coverage, public affairs, sports, community events and parades. And so the stations, you'll see all the various things they have in place to produce these. And we know that you're doing these things in Novato on a smaller scale, but there's little things that you can learn here and take back to Novato, ideas to implement into your system.
Absolutely. So the staff at NCTV decided to do a day in the life of an executive director, and so that's going to be the theme throughout these tours. And before we take our first tour, why don't you give us a little synopsis of what you highlight here, what your specialty is here?
Well, our specialty is, we do four things. We have four sub-brands. We do news, sports, city programming, and then create what would typically be referred to as public access programming. So you are in our news studio right now on our news set, and we do live daily news here every day of the week. And then we also do a weekend newscast. And so we do, every day we're producing lots and lots of stories. These stories go on the channel live in HD, high definition, and they also go on the internet. And now we're averaging, with all of the various video that we do, about 350,000 views per month on local content. And it's all about getting it out there to the right place at the right time through social media. And it's just a whole new way to watch content. We also have a mobile app. You can watch our content on a mobile app.
You also have a production truck.
Yep. Yeah, we have a production truck. We have a facility dedicated strictly for public access programming where people can come in. This particular facility or this studio is dedicated towards news and public affairs. And then so we have the production truck. We have like a live truck. We have 5 news and sports vehicles that go out in the metropolitan area here to cover news.
When you speak of news, is it hyper-local news? What kind of news do you cover?
It's totally hyper-local. So when you was saying to somebody the other day, it's like you can tune into national news and see all the negative news happening out there. All of our news is hyper-local, only to the northwest suburbs. If it's somewhere else, we really don't care that much about what's happening outside our area. But if it's something that's happening in our area, we want to tell people about it.
So I got to tour CCX Media. I'm very impressed. It brings back memories of when I worked in network television. So this is not your typical public access feel at all. It's very impressive. So why don't you explain where we're going to? We're going to take a tour of 4 other stations besides CCX. What's our first one coming up?
Well, Pam, the first station, again, so it was 4 stations. So actually in your entire tour, it's 5 total if you include this one. But the first station we're going to is called CTV North Suburbs. So it's literally on the other side of the Mississippi River from where we are. And they cover like 8 or 9 cities. And you're going to meet Dana, the executive director there.
All right, let's go there now.
I'm the executive director here at CTV, so I've been here only 2 months or so.
And where'd you come from?
And so I'm from a small station in Massachusetts, Danvers, Massachusetts. We had about 10,000 subscribers, so it's substantially smaller than what I'm doing right now with CTV. So I totally understand where you're coming from on the needs of your community because you're serving one city. And it's a smaller budget that you have to work with. So I totally understand that.
What do you see coming in the future?
Well, it's interesting coming from the East Coast and then coming to the Midwest. You definitely see a different set of challenges that are coming from all over the nation. So I think it's really important for community media centers to be open-minded and to really start targeting alternative funding. It's just the way we are moving and adapting to the future. CTV's been here for 30 years. So our mission 30 years ago may not be reflective of what's happening in the environment now. And it's really important for community media centers to take a strong look at the problem they are solving as a nonprofit. If there isn't a problem to be solved, then you need to really you have a responsibility to look inwards to see what ways can we truly add value to the communities that we serve. That may not look the same that it did 30 years ago, and that's okay. But we need to adapt and change. And also within that, we need to be aware that our funding will change. So coming here, we had a drastic reduction in funding, 40% reduction in funding. So on the surface, that's like, whoa, we really need to do something. We need to get everything in order related to that. And that could be very scary. But it's also a huge opportunity. Okay, now let's look at what we're doing. Let's look at what we're doing super well. Let's maximize that. And let's reformat how we're serving the community to do it to the best ability that we can. So, and that's my responsibility, is to identify those bright spots in the future and to really amplify that for our community to serve to the best ability that we can.
And now we're at Town Square Television, and we're here with the ED, Jody Miller. Hi, nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming and getting the very brief tour of our facility today.
Well, I'm very impressed. So how long have you been the ED here?
I've been here forever. Started working here in 1989, and I got the executive director position in 1993. So I always say I'm one of the last people who hopefully will be at the same job for my entire career if things go well.
That's a nice segue. So what would you say your niche is here? What do you do? What are your best practices? What do you specialize in here?
Well, as we were talking about earlier, when I was showing you around, we've been in business here for 30 years. Actually, the Cable Commission started in 35 years ago, and then the nonprofit Town Square Television was formed in 30 years ago. And we're very ingrained in the community. And I think even though sometimes it's a challenge, our diversity and a wide range of things that we are involved in is probably what makes us strong. We were talking about our open house last year. We had our 30th anniversary celebration in October, and we had over 500 people attending our open house and helping actually host the open house and partner with us on it. And I think one of the strengths is that we have a lot of freedom to produce programming in the community that the community is interested in. And I was kind of surprised talking with people recently at our NATOA conference in just last month that some stations are quite confined on the types of programming that they're allowed to either have staff producing or to be carrying on their channels. For example, some cities might have a very limited definition of government programming. And so we feel very fortunate that we are allowed to cover community events and have programs with humor, programs with children and seniors. And we do a magazine show that's not just straight up city-only stories. We're allowed to do feature stories about the community and the people in the community. And I think that's what has really been a strength over the year because we have so many different networks of people that are involved in our station.
Well, how do people know about you, the general public?
Well, we are on 7 channels on both Comcast and CenturyLink in this 7-city area. And then we have a very active website now. We just redid our website, townsquare.tv, and we web stream most of our programming. And in the last 9 months or so, we've also started going live on Facebook Live with most of our live programming. And so social media, both Facebook and Twitter, have been another avenue to bring more interest and more engagement. But I think, again, because we work with the faith communities, the city governments, county government, the schools, the sports teams, Game of the Week is one of our biggest programs. music groups, and then our public access opportunities for the general public. There's not just one thing, but we have a multitude of partners and people participating. And then I'm thinking about our staff too. We have a relatively small staff, 13 people. Almost every program that you see on our channel has community involvement volunteers or public producers. Our staff could not put 1,500 hours of programming on the channel every year on their own. But most of our staff wear multiple hats. We don't have that luxury of having somebody who does just one thing. But again, I think it's a challenge, but it's also a benefit because they're involved in the community and they're involved in different aspects of our operation.
Sure. PEG is Public Educational and Government TV, and it's basically all of the local community events that get videotaped and put on local channels for just a very specific area. We have 7 cities in our area, so we do all of the high school games, we do all the city meetings, we do a local news show that doesn't cover sort of the whole metro area, but just our 7 cities, things that would probably not be covered by a broadcast news channel, but something that would be of interest to people who live in our 7 cities. So we're able to cover events, issues that are more local than generalized. And so I think that's what it is.
Do you rely on volunteers to cover all that?
We primarily have paid people for our high school sports, for covering meetings. They're sort of like contract workers. They're not like a full-time or even a part-time person. They're basically paid for 10, 15 hours a month.
Why is community access television important, and what are some of the risks or threats in the future?
Well, I think it's important because I think it's important to offer the folks who live in your community a place where they can come in and utilize equipment, and more importantly, get training, because anybody can take their phone or cameras and edit stuff. It's not that expensive to come up with your own equipment, but you don't necessarily know how to tell a story. You don't know how to put a program together, and maybe once you have that, you don't really know how to get it out there. So we offer all of those things in addition to the equipment if you can't afford it. And I think it's important to make that available to people because, cable companies are using the public rights of way, and it's part of, a responsibility to your citizens to give them something back for allowing a company to have that use.
Given the future, what do you see coming in the next 5-10 years, and what are you doing to prepare for the unknown?
Well, I think that in the next 5 or 10 years, obviously, telecommunications and the world of cable TV is changing so rapidly. I don't think anybody can know exactly what's going to happen. I think we can all agree that cable companies are very resilient and they come up with ways to survive. But I think our funding formulas are probably going to change a little bit. And so I think you have to look at, is it possible to come up with funding in other ways? I don't know if it is possible to replace, PEG fees or even parts of franchise fees because they're quite extensive, for some of the bigger areas like us. But I think you have to look at different options like that. You have to look at how important you are to your communities and whether or not they're willing to maybe finance you to some degree, through city government. And then I think you have to look at what you're doing. I mean, what are you providing? Are you providing something that's of value to them? I mean, do people want to see their city meetings? People don't want to have them go away. They're used to them now. Do people care about watching their kids play sporting events? Do they want that information? Do they want the availability? And I think you just have to be ready to try new things. We've tried a bunch of things, like we are offering a drone service now for people. We have the program where we let people come in with their home videos. We have that home video thing. So we're looking at different ways to engage different members of the community who might not want to come in and produce a program, but they might have something they'd want to do through a community center instead of just like a television studio. So I think you just have to be open to trying different things.
And when you say we, are you talking about staff or staff and board together? Or
I'm talking about staff and board together because, we all make decisions together. We come up with ideas and then you present them to the board and they, up or down. But our board tends to be very willing to give stuff a go.
We're at QCTV now, and we're here with Kat Lindenberg. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Yes, and you're the operations manager.
Yes.
Well, we've been doing a segment, as our guests know, on a day in the life of an executive director, but now you're an operations manager, right?
Yes, I am.
So
I'm
I'd like-
operations manager here. Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to get your perspective on what it's like in the day in the life of an operations manager.
It is a lot of fun. We produce community programming, so we're storytellers, so we're out in the community interviewing people, bringing it back here, putting it together. We do council meetings, we do election coverage, we do high school sports, we do lots of things to try to get our name out in the community so people value the local programming.
Yeah, do you get paid extra for that? Is that extra revenue that's coming in to support your PEG funds?
Nope, we get our money from the PEG fees from the 4 cities.
And that's it. Are you concerned about future PEG fees?
Yes, we're all concerned about the future. We're wondering how we're going to fund ourselves, and that's what everybody's trying to figure out right now.
So nobody has the answer yet. We're just all collaborating and wondering and
Yes.
attending conferences, perhaps?
Yes, ACM and NATOA, there's some very nice direction from the national leadership, and yes, I think we're all in it together.
You have a very beautiful facility here, and I'm really impressed with this. Can you explain what's behind us here?
This is our pillowcase set, and we needed a new set, and we didn't have a lot of money, so we bought the frame, and then this is a fabric with digital photography that you just slip over it. And it's also on the other side, and you can buy other ones. So that's our goal moving forward, so we can have lots of different backgrounds. It's very lightweight, it's easy to move, you could take it on location. We're very pleased with it.
So it's mobile. Now, you do a lot of mobile broadcasting live as well, right?
We do. We have a mobile production van, and we take that out, and we do high school sports, we do parades, we do graduations, we do community events. We do a series called Live and Local, where we're out in the community producing shows that have to do like the farmers market, like we're going to be at Fort Snelling doing a show on World War I because it's the 100th anniversary, so we're always looking ahead and going out in the community and trying to contribute valuable programming.
Well, with the uncertainty of the future, how do you keep staff morale high?
Morale is very high here. Everybody is quite jolly. We're very collaborative. We work together. Somebody produces a show and the rest of us crew that show and help them. And I'm a big believer in pumping out programming. So we do something every day. The studio does not sit vacant. There's remote shoots, there's production, there's high school sports. Tonight we're doing a North Metro Mayor's Forum. There's a live council meeting. So it's something every day. So we're busy.
And what do you have to say for the future of public television and why it's important to keep it alive?
I think it's very important. Local programming. Local programming is very important. I think local elections, that is some of the most important thing we do, city council meeting. Yeah, all politics is local, and it starts at the local level. So if we don't cover them, they're not going to be transparent. So it's very important that we continue our coverage of local programming.
We want to say hi to NCTV in Novato, California.
Hello, nice to see you.
And it's nice to meet you. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Well, we covered a lot of territory. Can you explain, referencing a map, where all we covered?
We went all over the Twin Cities. As you'll see on the map, I pointed to all the different areas in the greater Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And so we went from the north end of town to the south end of town and all over, and it was just great to see all these different facilities. And I learned, I haven't been to some of them for a while, and I actually learned new things today. And I said to my staff when I got back here, I said, we have to take the tour that Pam took because I learned some new things. I've been working in this business for 30 years, and I learned new things today.
I was so impressed. It was so exciting seeing all the lights. Everybody's so nice. Everybody's very professional. Everybody's very passionate about what they do. But I want to talk about, you're also on the ACM board, of which, NCTV is a member of the ACM, Alliance for Community Media. So what I learned, I think what I got the most out of today is how important the mission statement and having a vision statement is. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on how important that is?
Well, it's important. I mean, just our organization has a mission and vision statement. And as we went around to other areas, they had some that were either working on them or changing them or updating them. But really with the Alliance for Community Media, which is an organization that's been around for quite a long time now, their mission is to really protect freedom of speech, protect localism in terms of, if you look at all the media consolidation going on, like at the national level, like, one big company gobbling up another company, and newspapers, little community newspapers folding left and right. The local voice is important. Local transparency, politics is local. You heard that from one of the people you talked to this afternoon. It's very important, and so Alliance for Community Media is trying to get all the community TV centers together and to promote this concept and keep it going, because there could be threats to revenue down the road here, and we think it's a very important aspect in a community to have this local voice like you have in Novato. I mean, they all know, they recognize you in Novato. You are the voice of all the things happening in Novato, and without community TV, you wouldn't have your local parades or, all these little festivals or the big ball drop you have out there. It's amazing.
Well, thank you for following our show. But believe believe it or not a lot of people still know that we exist. So we have a lot more work to do. Do you have any suggestions for what community TV stations can do to become more engaged with the community and bring more awareness to the community?
Oh, absolutely. It is all about, it's out of sight, out of mind. So you have to be out there in the community. You have to go out and cover events. You have to be visible. As simple as having like some type of vehicle with your name on it and being out there, and people could say, oh, well, there's NCTV or CCX Media. It's very important to be out at the local parades and put on your local officials on TV. But furthermore is you need to take this content and get it distributed to people. You want as many people as possible to see your content, and that's the beauty of the internet now. It's important to play on your cable channels, but it's also important to take that then. There's like a whole second audience beyond your cable channels and say, hey, we've got this clip of the mayor talking about this wonderful thing that's going to happen in our city. Let's send that out to people so they can see it.
Well, this week was way too short. I want to come back. Maybe next time we'll see a Vikings game.
Oh, yeah. Well, if they win, I don't know. Lately, we just don't know. But yes, it would be great.
Thank you for your hospitality. You've been so gracious, and your staff. Everybody has been so nice and so accommodating. Thank you for having me here, all the way from Novato, California, not Nevada.
Not Nevada, Novato. You just go across the San Francisco
Golden Gate Bridge.
Golden Gate Bridge, not the Bay Bridge, but the Golden Gate Bridge. You head north, 50 miles, 40 miles?
Thereabouts, without traffic.
That's where Novato is.
We're on the map, believe me.
Yes.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for watching. That's our show, and we'll see you next time. If you have ideas for a show segment or a local event you'd like to feature, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us an email to info@novatotelevision.tv, and we'll contact you about possibly airing your show idea or event. Please visit our website to learn more about NCTV and like us on our Facebook page. Be sure to tune in next month to see what your local government, nonprofit businesses, and community volunteers have been working on right here in Novato.